Hey everyone, it's time for another live look at the astrology. My name is Katie Sweetman, and this is your look at the astrology of November 7th through 13th, 2022. I hope you're all doing well and navigating this eclipse season. It's been a doozy. You know, sometimes things aren't happening with the eclipses, but we're certainly feeling it emotionally and energetically. And something that I keep talking about with the eclipses is that, and maybe this doesn't make sense yet, eclipses are not singular moments in time. Even though we're having an eclipse tomorrow, November 8th, even though we had an eclipse October 25th, this one was in Scorpio, they are these sort of seeds that are planted that we keep going back to again and again and again. That's why eclipse season, yes, it's contained to a certain period of time, but time, and that's really what astrology is about. One of the things astrology is about time, the energy of time, how we live time, how time unfolds, and how time, this is the thing about eclipses, it's not linear. It circles back and forth, and we have these moments in time, and that's why I keep going back to certain key moments, 2018, 2019, May 2018, March 2019, because those times are really embedded into what we're experiencing now here 4 years later, almost 5 years later in 2022. So I like to reference those points because when you see the thread and it's really kind of obvious and it's kind of spooky too, you're like, wow, astrology is real. I know, that's why I do it. Yes, you know, we come here every week to talk about the astrology, and you hear me say the astrology is 50%. You are the other 50%, but you live in your astrology. You live in this time. And how do you want to live this time? That part is on you, but the eclipses, that part is not on us. That part is bigger than us. It's capital T time, capital L life. So if you're watching live, let me know where you're watching from. Let me know how are you doing this eclipse season, especially my fixed signs of Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. What's been happening? Especially my Tauruses and Scorpio. These are major eclipses for you because they activate your sign and also the sign that opposes you. So Taurus opposes Scorpio, Scorpio opposes Taurus. So yeah, again, my name is Katie Sweetman, and I am located in the New York City area. I'm right outside in New Jersey. I actually got to see it's not quite full. It's going to be a full moon early tomorrow morning at 6:03 a.m. Eastern. But I got to watch the moon rise over Manhattan from my window, and I was like, wow, that's a beautiful moon. But eclipses, they're no joke. I'm just being real. And this is maybe where I'm a little bit different than other people. Don't go and look at the lunar eclipse. I'm being a little superstitious, a little woo-woo about it. These are intense energies, and you don't necessarily want to put yourself in them by standing under them. But hey, maybe you feel differently. I don't know. But I'm sure it's going to be beautiful if you wake up early, whether you're in the West Coast of the United States, whether you are on the East Coast. I think it's also visible in parts of the Pacific, not in Europe, and then maybe a little bit in Asia as well. So yeah, take it easy. It's intense energies right now. Why would you put yourself in that beam of energy? Here's another soapbox. When did we start calling it a blood moon eclipse? This is like the internet did this. This is not in the textbooks. The ye old ancient astrology textbooks did not say the blood moon eclipse. But yes, it does turn red, and it will be a total eclipse, at least here in the United States. What does that mean? It means the Earth passes in front of the sun, and then it blocks out the light of the sun, and the moon turns red. It's the refraction of light in the atmosphere. That's why it turns red, not because it's actual blood. Anyway, that's me just being a little bit on my soapbox. Eclipses, we should have respect for them, but sometimes I think we can get a little bit hyped about them, but that's just my own personal opinion. Everybody's entitled to their own opinions. But yeah, how are you all doing? We just had the what's it called? The sun pass through the south node of the moon this past week, and I swear to God, I felt like I was dying. Maybe that sounds a little dramatic, but as a Scorpio, the south node is in my sign. Scorpio is the sign of death and release and transformation and transmutation. Holy moly, on Saturday, I was just like, I feel like almost my whole body got run over by a truck. But, you know, maybe this is exactly what I needed. Maybe this moment when the sun passed through the energies of the south moon, I got to release something. But it's been work. And this is why I'm just saying, take care of yourself. Don't do anything crazy right now. Get grounded. Be gentle. You know, it is a Taurus full moon. Taurus loves slow movements. It loves taste and touch and pleasure and food. Taurus is ruled by Venus, so this is a very Venusian, you know, relationships, connection, money, resource. But it is this full moon that really puts in the spotlight the energies of Uranus, which we will talk about in a moment. So yeah, this was a pretty intense eclipse period. And always when I was looking at the astrology of 2023, October, November was for me the real, the interesting time of the astrology. Yes, we had eclipses in April and May of earlier this year, but I really had my eye on these eclipses because the way that it activated Uranus and Saturn, it really talks about this crucible of time it's reshaping us. It's reshaping key areas of your life depending on where these planets are being activated. So yes, I see some familiar faces on the chat. Even if you're not watching live, I get this all the time. People say, I feel like I know you. I watch you from the elliptical machine on Tuesdays. I watch you, on my commute. So yes, you guys watch me on Spotify and on YouTube and even on Instagram. But, doing this live on Facebook. Yeah, Scorpio season, wrapping things up. We're in the midpoint of the season. What else we got going? We got a lot of Saturn aspects this week. We did Uranus last week. Now we're doing Saturn. And Saturn is all about structure, commitment, getting real, setting the bar, setting boundaries. And maybe for some of us, we hit a no this week. Maybe for others, we hit a yes. Saturn, for its reputation, it talks about these structural points when things want to come together. The beauty, and sometimes the frustration of astrology, is that it makes more sense in hindsight. We really see these moments where things come together. That's why I like to go back and reference different points in time. But yeah. Let's look at the astrology of, I almost said October, November 7th through 13th, 2022. Starting with Venus square Saturn. So as we start the week, November 7th, 2022, Venus is in Scorpio. It's squaring Saturn. So Venus is on its way out of Scorpio. And Saturn, Venus is in the middle of the sign, but by the middle of November, which is just, a week and a half from now, Venus will be out of Scorpio and it will go into Sagittarius. That's for the future. Classically speaking, Venus is not at home in Scorpio. And this is just to say that Venus has to work with the energies of Mars. Normally, Venus is all about the sort of pleasure, the softness, connection, what do you want, deference, let me help you. Mars is not that way. Mars is like very pointed. It goes after what it wants. Venus and Scorpio, it's really good at navigating, having the bravery and courage to navigate the deeper psychological material of life, whether it's between two people, intimacy, vulnerability, sexuality, or being able to see through, let's say, people's motivations, see behind the curtain. I think Venus in Scorpio is very powerful. It's a little bit more of a modern view. We just have to use Venus in a different way. I have Venus in Scorpio, although it's retrograde. But yeah, Venus square Saturn is just this reminder that we need to have relationships that are above board, so to speak. And I think that the other side of Venus and Scorpio, maybe with the South Node there as well, is that it is bringing up really deep material, the past, traumas. Wow, like my client consultations last week with all the Scorpio material. I mean, the stories that I've heard, and I'm saying that absolutely compassionately, but it was like one, scorpionic session after another, like abuse, neglect, family trauma, the past, this, that, death. Unfortunately, it's part of life, and maybe that's, Venus bringing up the hidden side of a relationship, the shame, the abuse, the control, the manipulation, the toxic relationship patterns. And then to see Saturn come up, and Saturn's like, yes or no, this is either working or not working. But for some of us, we are really building connection this week. It's Uranus is shaking things up, but we still need to build in the space that Uranus has been activating. So Venus, especially with Saturn, is the sort of the energy of I do, but with the square, we just have some work to do to get things in alignment. And this is a tangent in defense of the square. I think it's an energy that people, when they're learning about astrology, everything falls into the good, bad camp. Trine's good, sextile's good, squares, opposition's bad. Do keep in mind that we live on a physical plane. The physical plane is governed by Saturn, manifestation, time, karma, aging, and boundaries. The energies of manifestation is the square, the grand square. And if you want to know when something is going to manifest or when it is time for something, you look towards the square. The trine can open up an opportunity, but the squares are the workhorses of the astrology. This is a little tip for you if you're learning astrology. So I really do focus on squares in my work, but we do have a beautiful Venus trine Neptune this week that hopefully will smooth things out. That's the thing, trines, they can sort of take the edge off. They can maybe make things a little bit easier and give us a little bit of help. Lord knows we need it this week. So yeah, Venus square Saturn, really taking a look at relationships and responsibilities and duties and making sure that we reach the mark. Then on Tuesday, November 8th, it's going to be at 6:03 a.m. Eastern, 3:03 a.m. Pacific. Side note, I feel like I just figured out how to calculate the time zones for Australia and New Zealand in my head, and then the clocks changed. Now you guys are 16 hours ahead. Like, how do I... Anyway, so I can't remember what it is for Australia. I'm so sorry, but I used to be able to do this very quickly. Anyway, so this full moon is at 16 degrees of Taurus. That's right about the middle of the sign. Do keep in mind, side note, tangent, today, the 7th, the sun is at 15 degrees of Scorpio. 15 degrees of Scorpio is the midpoint of the sign. This is the degree that Halloween, Samhain, all these ancient festivals were celebrated around because it marked this spiritual transitional point between the summer solstice and the winter solstice. Forgot to mention that. But this is the real Halloween today, just FYI. Tomorrow, when the sun is at 16, we have the full moon at 16 degrees of Taurus. Uranus is at 17 degrees of Taurus, right opposite my natal Uranus. And this full moon puts in the spotlight a story that's been with us since May 2018, March 2019. You've heard me talk about this a lot. I'm saying it again. I'm saying it for the new people. Uranus, which is what's called an evolutionary planet, doesn't move very quickly. It changed signs back in May of 2018, March of 2019. Those are two dates because Uranus went into Taurus on May 15th, 2018, went out of Taurus, I think it was like the 7th or 8th of November 2018, and it was back in Taurus for good, at least until 2025, 2026, on March 6th of 2019. And for many people, especially if you're heavily fixed or have major planets early in the fixed signs, those were big points for you. I've had people tell me major things happened in their life around that time. I quit my job at IT, didn't plan it like this, even though I'm an astrologer, of 20 years in March of 2019 to do this full time. So go back to that time, because that's when the seed was planted. And then we had going into April of 2019, going into summer of 2019, going into November of 2019, and then you start to see this pattern around May, August, November, May, August, November. I should probably throw February in there too. These are the months where we hit the fixed energies. And with an outer planet in a fixed sign, every time we have like a major lunation, new moon, full moon, solar eclipse, lunar eclipse, like tomorrow, we have an activation of Uranus and Taurus. The difference between this eclipse, November 8th, and the eclipse that we had last year, November 19th in Taurus, is what's called the orb. It is a 1 degree orb. That is very close. Whereas last year, the lunar eclipse was at 27 degrees. Uranus was earlier in the sign at that point. So in a way, you could say that this eclipse, whether it manifests right away or whether it takes its time, or maybe it already happened, is one of those bigger points in a story that's been formulating 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021. 2021 with its almost like tectonic plate activity in our life. Things were pushing and pulling, and people were making major changes in their life around the fixed signs. And even when we had the 3 Saturn-Uranus squares of February and June and December of 2021, maybe you made a major move. Maybe you changed careers. Maybe something else happened. I know my mom passed during this time in August of last year, 2021. That's a major thing. So this year, here we are. What's the story? At the root of Uranus's time in Taurus, which when we go through each of the 12 signs, will refresh our memory. That area of your life has to transform. But Katie, the astrology is 50%. I'm the other 50%. I don't want to change. Well, here's the thing. Evolutionary planets, we can't change that energy. It's like, Katie, there's a hurricane. I don't choose this hurricane. I'm like, I wish it worked that way. But this is what this energy does. Not to say that it's a hurricane, but it's energy that's bigger than us. It's a force. We cannot control it. We can work with it. We can allow it to reveal something in us, and we can sometimes get pulled in another direction. So there's an area of your life that when you look back over the last few years probably looks very different than it did in 2018. Maybe you changed careers like me. Maybe it's the end of a marriage. Maybe it's the start of a marriage. Maybe it's a relationship that is radically different than anything you've ever experienced. I know so many Scorpios that were single for a decade suddenly have very different relationships. Maybe it's a move, especially my Aquariuses. Maybe you made a big change in your household. But it means different things for different people. And sometimes we need that evolutionary push to get us unstuck, to get us out of our way. The irony of this eclipse is that on one hand, it wants stability and security. Taurus is the fertility and the sensuality and the physical pleasure, in opposite to Scorpio's decay and endings. I know it sounds so, but we need that. We need to remember that even in Scorpio times, there is life. That's duality between these two signs. Side note, I remember last year, not last year, it was in April. It feels like last year at this point. April and May's eclipses was around the time of the Kentucky Derby. And you had that horse that came out of nowhere and like won, and for some people won really big money. And right now, it's such a Taurus thing. The Powerball won the lotteries here in the United States. It's like $1 billion. I did not win the Powerball, but I did win $4. So I feel, that's my Taurus season win. But that's this energy of like anything is possible. There's, Uranus is wild cards. It wants us to break out of something, break out of ourselves, to emerge. The example that I give is that there is something inside of you that identifies you as you, but you're afraid, I'm afraid, or whoever's afraid to really show it. Another personal example is like 3 years ago, it took a lot of courage to sit here and do this weekly and talk in front of you people extemporaneously. I don't have a script. I have like a loose bit of notes, but that's it. But Uranus was saying, do it. Do it because it's hard. Do it because this is the time. This is the energy of the time that you're in. So maybe you need to do something courageous. Maybe you need to get out of your way and to shake things up. So it's, again, going to mean different things for different people. I think with Venus and Scorpio and the energies of Uranus and Saturn, there's a lot of things about relationships, a lot of things about, this could be a pivotal turning point for a lot of people, but we will see. And the thing about eclipses is that, this is kind of the maddening but also cool thing about eclipses, is that they can show up a month later, or we see them again with the midpoint of the eclipses, and this would be end of January going into February. Or maybe you already saw the eclipse in October, the last lunar month. So then we have what on the, I'm looking at my notes, look, Wednesday, November 9th, we have Sun opposite Uranus. So it's building upon these energies that we saw with the lunar eclipse. I call Sun opposite Uranus the coming out aspect, because there is this psychic force of Uranus that really wants us to reveal ourselves, and this idea of identity, an identity that is often shaped by externalities, environment, the past, parents, parental expectations, societal expectation. And Uranus is like, what are you doing? This is not who you are. Here, let me help you. And that's when people can do 180s. Then we have on the 10th, I have to look at my notes. Normally I don't have to. Mercury, because there's so much astrology. Mercury squares Saturn. So Mercury, it's rounding out its time in Scorpio. It's going to change signs next week, just like Venus. But for now, it has to come up to the energies of Saturn. And Mercury squares Saturn, and to keep in mind, Mercury in Scorpio is the classic detective, investigator, obsessive about the details. And maybe Mercury discovered something, or even discovered something that was a little shocking or unexpected while it made its opposition to Uranus last week. Mercury square Saturn says we need to get very clear about what we are choosing, what we are thinking, where we are going, and maybe even what we are doing with a lot of the information that we discovered while Mercury is in Scorpio. I think with the fact that Mars is in Gemini retrograde, we need to be very conscientious about our choices, and this could be an aspect where we make a serious commitment in some way. So we're not using our words casually this week. On the same day, I think it's the 10th of November, Venus makes a trine to Neptune. So Venus and Neptune in aspect, they're magnetic. If you know somebody with Venus an aspect to Neptune, there's an allure about them. There's something that pulls you in. You want to know them. It could be beautiful. It could be seductive. But Venus is in Scorpio, can be very seductive. And then you have Neptune in Pisces. And Neptune has the sense in its highest aspect, it's redemptive love, it's unconditional love. It's love that expects nothing in return. And maybe with all this shadow work that we've been doing with Venus and Scorpio, there is a silver lining. And maybe there's even a silver lining with something that's been happening during this eclipse season. Neptune can talk about healings, transformations, forgiveness, compassion. Sometimes it also talks about illusions, maybe less so with the trine, but be open to something unexpected, or maybe a miracle, or again, a silver lining this week. Then we have Sun square Saturn. Sun is, you've seen a theme, maybe. The Scorpio Sun makes a square to Saturn in Aquarius on the 11th of November. This is part of this larger theme throughout the year of Saturn really showing us where our structural points are. Where are we building something? Where are we saying yes to things? Where are we saying no to things? Where is our life taking shape and taking form? So Sun square Saturn just says that we need to be real this week. We need to step up to our duties and responsibilities. And sometimes Saturn, in some cases, and hopefully not for you, can really show us where we've overstepped the mark, where we have not honored our commitments and maybe even transgressed against something. So just, be on your best behavior this week. Finally, we got Mercury trine Neptune on Saturday. This is November 12th. Mercury and Neptune can make for very intuitive, powerful dreams, visions, intuition, and psychic activities. So maybe this is a weekend where you really see things, feel things, dream things in this very powerful, energetic time. So there you go. That's your look at the astrology of this week. Let's look at the astrology for each of the 12 signs. Just your friendly reminder to listen for your sun sign and your rising sign. Maybe you're thinking, Katie, which is it? Is it one or the other? I'm like, both. Yes, it can be both. And this is where your life sort of occupies two spaces simultaneously. And if you know your rising sign, you need your exact birth time to get that. You can start to see two themes that you can synthesize into something that actually gives you a deeper insight onto your life. So let's start with Aries. Aries, so Scorpio season for you is this time of doing the deep work. Deep emotions are coming up, vulnerabilities, insecurities, maybe something about you and a partner, intimacy, sexuality, but also trust, power, control, manipulation. And this is just that natural season for you, which does end when the sun goes into Sagittarius, where you have something about you has to come up and you do the work so that you can transform, to put light where there is not light. That's the real work of Scorpio season for you. But there's just a lot of stuff going on in your 8th right now. So maybe it's some really deep emotions are coming up, and maybe you're like, oh man, when does this end? Let's get into Sagittarius season. Do keep in mind, Aries, that your planet is Mars and it's retrograde. It's going to be retrograde until the middle of January 12th. So as much as you want to rush forward, that is your MO, Aries. A little bit impatient, a little bit quick. And maybe even Mars and Gemini has wanted to say things very sharply since August, but you have to choose your words wisely right now. You have to pick your battles. And maybe the most positive thing that comes out of this time is that some of the emotional material that is coming up, Mars gives you an outlet to talk about it and talk about things that normally you would be uncomfortable to talk about. This lunar eclipse activates your second sign of Taurus. The second sign is about money and income. And we've talked about this over the weeks and months and even years, is that you're in a 7-year period, 7 years, of reinventing your relationship with your material world, how you earn a living, your relationship with money, the sense of value, whether it's a cultural value or an intrinsic value, or what is it that you really need? Do you need to earn a living that way? Do you need to buy that stuff? Or maybe you've been afraid to really allow yourself to create a stable, grounded material life. We are humans. We do live in a physical plane. We do need to take care of our physical lives. And maybe that's something that has not always been easy for you. This is also a lunar eclipse, especially with the sun in the 8th. It's about money and finance, investments, resource, property, assets, and maybe stuff about loans and debts, estates, inheritances, wills, benefits. I know that maybe that you're like benefits and wills, but it is Scorpio season. We have to talk about estate planning. And Scorpio is a money sign for you, and so is Taurus. So there's this push and pull going on right now about assets and what you own and what you need, and maybe sort of these deeper existential points that come up about money at this time. And maybe you have a decision to make. And at the need of a lunar eclipse in Taurus is to find stability, especially in contrast to a lot of the emotional instability that may be coming up at this time. Taurus, you are in the spotlight right now, Taurus. This is one of the marquee astrological events of the year, and it's in your sign. If you are born around the middle of the sign, I think that's my people born around the 6th or 7th or 8th or 9th of May, if I'm doing my astrology right, you're in the spotlight. So a lunar eclipse on your sign is a big deal. It means different things to different people. It could be a turning point in the year for you. It could be life is a bit loud right now. Like somebody cranked up the volume. All you have to do is look back at last November as sort of a compare and contrast with that eclipse on November 19th of 2021. A lunar eclipse demands action. We can't sit by anymore. Something is in the spotlight. There's a push to manifest something and make a new beginning. The tension, especially with Venus, your planet over into Scorpio, wow, I can't speak, is so much about relationships right now. And relationships mean different things. This is not just marriage or a committed relationship. This is all relationships for you right now, Taurus. But this eclipse is playing off of Saturn in your 10th. Saturn's in Aquarius, and you're coming to the home stretch, Taurus, of this time to really define your place in the world. What do you want to be when you grow up, Taurus? What is the title after your name? What is the duties and responsibilities that you want to carry? And even though this relationship is on some level about relationships and other people, it is about you, and it is about the direction that you're taking your life in. And you may see some sort of shift in your professional life at this time because the eclipses play off of it. And go back to 2021, Taurus, and see how your professional life was shifting and changing over key moments throughout last year. Venus, your planet, it is in a little bit of a tight spot right now. And so I'm just saying this in case it's a bit much. It is a lot of emotional energy, especially, with a full moon. Do take care of yourself, get grounded. You are a Taurus, and Taurus needs those creature comforts. And this is what I love about Taurus. And I'm saying this as a Scorpio because I'm like, just release it. Just feel it, burn it to the ground. And Taurus is like, calm down, Scorpio. So maybe just relax. Maybe the best that you can right now, Taurus. Maybe take care of yourself. Maybe eat a sandwich. Taurus's food is pleasure. I know that sometimes it's hard to find pleasure in the midst of so much psychic, emotional, and even physical transformation. But again, do take care of yourself. Gemini, remember last week when I was doing Gemini? Was it last week? And it was, I think, maybe it was the week before, and it was just sirens during Gemini. It was crazy. And hopefully that was not prescient for you, Gemini. But anyway, your planet is in Scorpio, and all this Scorpio energy, your planet is Mercury, by the way, is in what's called your 6th. Your sixth sign is about sitting in the command seat of life. We all have to do it. Some days we don't do it as well. Some days we do it better. What does it mean to sit in the command seat of life? It means that your life has stability. It has a sense of flow. These are the things that you do this day. These are the things that you do that day. It's called a schedule. It sounds a bit rigid, but life needs a schedule. It needs that sort of sense of stability and flow throughout the day-to-day. And this is a time where you need to get your human life in order. It means making sure you do the dishes, brush your teeth, go to work, start a project, all that stuff. Mercury will shift into Sagittarius next week. That is a relationship sign. More on that next week. But there is this dynamic push and pull, especially with the lunar eclipse in Taurus, your 12th, between your physical life, your earthly life, your physical health, and also your spiritual life, your spiritual well-being, and your spiritual health. This is the eclipse season for you to bridge between earth and heaven, heaven and earth, however you want to find that. And I think with the energies of Saturn in your 9th, the eclipse in your 12th, again, Gemini, this is so much a time about soul searching and about asking yourself deep existential questions. And maybe with Mercury and Scorpio, the past, week, 2 weeks, you've been a little obsessive. Maybe you needed to get obsessive about the details and really clean things up, clean things out. Gemini, especially because you have been doing a lot of deep emotional work, and this even goes back the last decade. That's a bigger story for another time. But that said, a lunar eclipse in the 12th on some level does speak to endings. It's about releasing something from the physical world. In the best case scenario, release an attachment, release a suffering, release an addiction. You want to quit smoking, you want to quit doing this or that, whatever, just see what your body wants. Talk to your body. Maybe that's another way to use this eclipse energy. What does your body need? Your body is so important, and maybe it's like, actually, it's time to stop doing X, Y, and Z. Use the eclipse to let it go. Maybe it's time to let go of the past, let go of something, but you have to really feel into how this energy is manifesting for you, because it is pushing on some deeper soul points, existential points, but also physical and physical well-being points. Cancer. Cancer, just count the days until Saturn gets out of your 8th. I know, but what do we got? 4 months left. I know you can do it. It's been a really heavy past 2.5 years. Saturn's time in your 8th has been a marathon of really doing the deep work and even facing some of the deepest parts of yourself. That said, this lunar eclipse is in your 11th. It puts in the spotlight friends, community, your social circle, these larger issues, social themes, social causes, your relationship with the greater whole. And maybe for somebody, this is about something in the spotlight, about a friend or about your community or about something going on in your social circle, hopefully not too dramatic. Sometimes eclipses can be a little dramatic. But don't forget that Uranus has been in your 11th for the past few years. So this is about new people coming into your life that may be very radically different than the friends or the social circle that you're used to. You do have this dynamic push and pull. You have Scorpio, which is your 5th sign. There is this push and pull about identity. Who am I? Do I take myself seriously? Do I take my talents, gifts, and abilities seriously versus my greater relationship to the whole? Does my community take myself and take me seriously? How do you learn to negotiate these sort of finer points between your needs, your wants, your expression versus the expression of the whole? This is also a lunar eclipse to look towards the future, to plan the best that you can, to sort of see beyond the horizon. The 11th is the sign that brings you to almost to the end of your personal zodiac wheel, and this is where you're preparing for the next big chapter of your life, especially once Saturn gets out of Scorpio. What else we got? Leo. Leo, you are not in the spotlight, but you are a fixed sign, and this is putting your career in the spotlight. And I've said this over and over again, and I'm going to say it again. You are in a 7-year period, yes, 7 years of reinventing your place in the world, your career, your duties and responsibilities, your ambitions. What does that mean? It means whatever you were doing professionally in 2018 is not what you're going to be doing now or over the next few years. Best case scenario, Leo, is that this is the time that gives you the freedom to actually do what you want to do in the world. And sometimes that's very scary. So, Leo, what is the most radical thing you can do right now? Win the lottery, take that $1 billion and invest it, or being silly, but maybe I'm not. What is that crazy idea that you've always been holding on to? I mean, I'm saying this, I'm not a Leo, but I have a major planet in Leo. And of course, my story is my story, but the idea of quitting regular job with benefits and working in Manhattan to do this full time is a pretty crazy thing. But I did it because I had to be true to myself, and I knew that, God forbid, I got hit by a bus and I went to the other side. God would say to me, you literally found the one thing you were here to do. What happened? And I would say I was scared, and then God would say, well, I love you, but kind of missed that opportunity. And you're like, oh, I'll go back and do it again. Anyway, but really sit with that. If there are some big shakeups in your professional life at this time, what do you do with it? I mean, some of the things that are going on in the world, you have, like there's a certain PM of a country who became PM. He's a Taurus. Or maybe there's a certain former PM who was a Leo and is no longer PM. So there's a lot of push and pull going on in your professional life right now, Leo. But really get to the heart of who you are. That's the thing. You are a Leo. Maybe this is your Leo pep talk, your little halftime Leo pep talk. You're the sign that's supposed to incarnate the energies of the sun. The energies of the sun are the spark of the divine that lives inside of each and every one of us. But you, as a Leo, that's your main archetype. And to have Leo rising, or to be a Leo, is to shine like the sun. Not because you're better than, we're all different. But you need to connect back with you. What is it that makes you you? What lights you up and gives you life and gives you passion? And I'm saying this, and maybe hopefully this makes sense. The fire signs in astrology come before the earth signs. You cannot do your earthly life, work, money, career, ambition, until you get your fire sorted. And if Leo, you have no passion, how is your physical life going to work? Especially because you are the sign of passion, of creativity. Doesn't mean you have to be Oprah or stand on a stage or have the spotlight in you, but you just have to be you. Okay, Leo pep talk over. But this is a pivotal, capital P, pivotal eclipse for you. Really see what's happening, especially as you go into next month about your professional life. Use all your heart and all your courage and all your bravery to really go after what you want. Virgo, so Mercury is in your third sign. So this is really about taking your voice seriously, getting to the details and really discovering things. And at this eclipse season, it's really putting in the spotlight education, ideas, information, truth, meaning, belief, philosophy. But especially with this eclipse in Taurus, it's about conviction. And conviction are the things that we really stand behind. And sort of we all have a sense of moral compass, the things that we think are right and wrong. And maybe this is a big push for you to stand behind the things that you think are right and maybe say something about the things that you think are wrong. Another way to look at this eclipse is it's taking the energy of Scorpio, third, voice, information, communication, and putting it out there in the world. Right now, Virgo, you have something to say. Of course, not every Virgo, is going to live that in a dramatic way. But for some Virgos, it's public speaking, it's publishing, it's getting on a podcast, it's really showcasing your voice, your opinion, your philosophy, or your truth. Do keep in mind Uranus has been shifting your point of view, really trying to awaken you out of sometimes the blinders that you have in your life right now. And I'm saying this because you're what's called an earth sign, Virgo. The earth signs, especially when the earth signs overlay with the fire houses, you can get a little stuck in how you see things. So Uranus is just trying to open you up and maybe just say to yourself, maybe I'm wrong. If you get yourself caught in that very narrow spot of like, oh, this is the only way that this can happen. It can only be this way. Uranus is just saying, hey, maybe look at it from a different perspective. Something to think about, Virgo. But this is not the same kind of dynamic eclipse like it is for the other signs, although it is showcasing your planet, Mercury. So this could be a turning point for you this year, Virgo. Libra. See, I didn't forget Libra. Remember when I forgot Libra? I'm sure you didn't. Libra. So Scorpio is your second sign of money, and then you've got this lunar eclipse in your eighth, and this is going to be, how do I put this? I've been saying this for the past weeks, months, and even to last year. This is a time where a lot of what Libra is going through, even Libra rising, is this looking at the self. There is Saturn in the fifth, which is about taking yourself and taking your talents seriously. But then you have Uranus in the eighth, and this is about putting a spotlight and awakening to maybe the parts of you that aren't so helpful. There is a push and pull between something that is creative and constructive and something that is destructive and goes against creation, anti-creation. So how do you look at the things that are happening in your life right now and look for the psychological, emotional, and spiritual subtext? Somebody that I know sprained her ankle right as she was, like right after she had an argument with her mother, and that brought up that deeper emotional material. And it manifested on the physical level. But that said, look at identity right now, Libra. Who are you? Who are you not? Do you take yourself seriously? What is the value of yourself, especially with Venus being in this tight spot between these other planets? And maybe this is a pivotal time for you and your money, your income, your material stability, earning a living differently, maybe purchasing something, investing in something, or maybe getting your finances in order. Scorpio. Happy birthday, Scorpio. So if your birthday is around now, plus or minus a couple of days, this is a big eclipse for you, because this is energy that you're bringing with you into your personal year. Eclipse energy at the birthday means that the coming year is going to be in some way very different than the year before. English hard. So it means that something about your life could change, could shift. It could be a new beginning. It could be something dynamic. Taurus is your relationship sign, so the spotlight is on relationships. Do keep in mind, Scorpio, that you are 3-4 years into a time of reinventing what relationships mean for you. And maybe this is the lunar eclipse that coincides with a commitment, with a serious relationship, with a marriage. Maybe it's a turning point, or maybe if you're in an existing relationship and it's not working, something has to change, and maybe dramatically so. That's the thing about eclipses, especially with the energies of Saturn and Uranus wrapped up in it, is that it really puts something in the spotlight. It is time to take things seriously. And I'm saying this because Saturn is in your fourth, and this has been 2 years of settling down, putting down roots. Where is home? Who is home? Who is going to be the people in your life, the partnership, the connection, even your even romantic connection, if that's relevant to you. But this is a major eclipse, and it really continues the energies that we saw in 2021. For some, it's going to be a psychic shift. For others, it's tectonic. It feels like different areas of your life are moving in different directions. And maybe major things are manifesting around this lunar eclipse. Changes in your career, changes in your living situation, changes in relationships. That's the thing. These eclipses are hitting, and by extension, the four corners of your life. And when the four corners of your life get activated, it's about major manifestations in your life, Scorpio. Sagittarius. Sagittarius, I think we talked about this last week, but your planet's Jupiter, it's back in Pisces. So this is that wrap up of a story that began in 2021 that focuses on home and family, your living situation, a household, a move, a need to go back to something with a family member, but to get back down to your roots. But that said, go and look at your relationship with your physical life and your physical body. Since 2018 and 2019, Uranus has been in your sixth sign. This means different things for different Sagittarius. For some Sagittarius, it's been a wake-up call. They have not been in their body, whether it's trauma or whether just dissociative relationship with their physical life. They've been someplace else. Uranus is like, get in your body. For other Sagittariuses, it's maybe had some health challenges. For another Sagittarius, maybe it's time to take your physical body seriously, to make positive changes, get some physical exercise, get some fresh air. Again, means different things for different Sagittariuses, but this is one of those eclipses where it's like bringing to a head a story that's been with you since 2018, 2019. The personal story that I give you is that I remember in the summer of 2018, I'm Sag rising, I was going for walks because I was working from home and I had lost that, running around Manhattan and the subway and that sort of natural exercise that every New Yorker gets. And I'm like, shoot, I got to get some exercise, got to go for a walk. Otherwise, bad things are going to happen. And I just started walking at like 6 a.m. because I'm an early bird like that. And my body wanted to run. I'm like, what are you doing? We're not a runner. But it wanted to move in that way, and I had to sort of honor that. And here we are 4 years later. I'm not a runner, but that thread has continued, although in a gym, not outside. But what does your body want? And maybe that's a foreign concept for you, but really sit with your body. And speaking of health and wellness, Scorpio is your 12th sign, and you're having this push and pull between your physical life and your spiritual life, your physical health and your spiritual health. And with this dynamic push and pull that's happening because Venus is in your 12th, maybe this is time to let some things go. It could be some unhelpful habits. It could be an unhelpful relationship with certain things in your life that take away from health instead of supporting health. And this is also time to look at spiritual health and really letting go of some old patterns that you do not want to bring with you into your next personal year. Capricorn. So as you know, October was the 23rd, Saturn, your planet, turned direct. So you are in that home stretch before Saturn goes into Pisces on March 7th, 2023. For you, you're wrapping up a 3-year story about money, material stability, material security, your relationship with money, how you spend it, sort of these deeper themes around value and worth and even self-worth. This eclipse puts those energies into a spotlight, although by proxy, because this eclipse is not happening in your sign, but it's activating your planet Saturn. The eclipse is in your 5th, and so this is bringing to a head a larger story of personal transformation of self and self-expression that's been going on since 2018. Who are you, Capricorn? Who are you really? What is the version of self that you were expressing and living back in 2018, 2019? Where are you now? And a lot of times Capricorn take on a lot of duties and responsibilities unconsciously because that's their jam or that's their instinct. But there's been this time to just like get back to you, get back to the creative spark, strip away the things that aren't really you. This is creating this dynamic push and pull between you and other people, you and friends, community, groups, society, the bigger whole, and needing to make some serious decisions, and especially serious decisions that talk about value and worth and investment and material stability and security. So while this isn't a turning point eclipse to the level that it is for other signs, your planet Saturn is in this crunch, and this could be a major eclipse for you around value, worth, friends, community, self-expression, and really getting to the heart of who you are, Capricorn. Aquarius, my final fixed sign. This eclipse is really putting the spotlight on home and family. And I want you to think back to 2018, 2019 Aquarius, and how has your household shifted? How has your relationship with home and family shifted? For some Aquariuses, maybe you made a break from family. Maybe you're like, you know what? I don't need the toxic parents anymore. I don't need the toxic past. For other Aquariuses, it's a need to come back to self. It's not an external shift, it is an internal shift. For other Aquariuses, it's been a major move. And in fact, for some Aquariuses, there is a major move around this eclipse. Eclipses make things happen. That's what they do traditionally. And if you're planning a move, Aquarius, here you go. Here's your eclipse. There is this dynamic push and pull because Venus is up in Scorpio, and Scorpio is your 10th sign. So it's about that one of the two big axes of your life: home and career, your inner world, your outer world, your duties and responsibilities to yourself and the people in your inner circle, and your duties and responsibilities in the world. And maybe you're seeing your axis shift, and maybe your life is shifting. And certainly these eclipses, especially activating Saturn in Aquarius, hey, you're in Aquarius, it's really asking for something big to shift right now. And it is a lot of psychic and emotional pressure, Aquarius, to just make sure you're taking care of your health and wellness at this time. The past couple of years have really been some big milestones for you, Aquarius. And this is the last stretch of Saturn in your sign, this time of powerful new beginnings, serious new beginnings that began way back in 2020. And then you're going to have a personal shift in March of 2023. Talk about that later. But this is really activating these sort of larger structural points of your astrology. It's about relationships as well, because the sun is a relationship planet for you. So maybe this is about a serious relationship or a marriage or somebody moving in or somebody moving out, or sort of these other big milestones that can happen in between two people or happen in a serious relationship. So just hang in there, Aquarius. I know you've been a little bit in the big astrology right now, but we're almost through it all. Finally, Pisces. So Jupiter is back in your sign as of last week. So this is that sort of wrap up of a story that began in 2021. And maybe you feel different, Pisces. You're like, oh yeah, Jupiter's back in my sign. Maybe you feel like you have a lot more confidence, or maybe a sense of adventure, or even that push to go off in a new direction. Jupiter will turn direct, I believe it's at the end of this month, and then it's back out of Pisces by December 28th of this year. So this is that last stretch of Jupiter in your sign. That said, you do have a lunar eclipse in your third sign. This is something that we've been talking about over the past few years, especially with Uranus, which is an outer planet. It's an evolutionary planet. It's trying to get you to awaken to your voice, Pisces. Voice is two things. It's both the words out of your mouth, but it's also what is the energy behind those words. You better be certain, Pisces, that what is coming out of you is actually you. Live in your words. Live in your choices. Give them life. Don't let them just be these unconscious things that you're doing. Make conscious choices. What are you doing? Where are you going, Pisces? I know you've got Jupiter back in your sign, so everything seems possible. That's the thing about Jupiter. Sometimes it makes us really feel like everything is possible. the push and pull that's happening right now is about faith and truth and belief and sort of how you see the world. And maybe sometimes the times that you think that you are absolutely right, but this eclipse is reminding you, and sometimes poignantly so, to really, make sure that you are checking the finer print, that you are seeing things from different angles, that you are looking at the source notes, because sometimes we are absolutely convinced, especially with Jupiter back in Pisces, that we are right. Of course you're right. But you know what? Maybe that 0.1% time, you're not right, Pisces. So Scorpio season, it is a water sign, so you are feeling a lot of that emotional energy, and this is an eclipse, so maybe this is kind of pushing on some deeper psychic buttons. It is activating Mercury, which is a relationship planet for you, so maybe you're seeing some shifts and changes in relationship at this time. All right, everybody, that is your look at the astrology of November 7th through 13th, 2022. My name is Katie Sweetman, and this has been Empowering Astrology. You can follow me online at empoweringastrology.com. I'm on Facebook, Instagram. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Spotify. Sign up for my newsletter. You can get information first thing in the morning on Mondays. You can kind of see what's going on with the week, and I also talk about upcoming events. And of course, I appreciate you all. Thank you all for joining me, and we will do a little bit of debriefing next week when we're on the other side of eclipses. Take care. Bye-bye.